In this example, we're given the function y equals f of x as a graph, and we're asked to evaluate the sign of the function, the sign of the derivative, and the sign of the second derivative. So we have the first and the second derivatives here. And all we want to do is evaluate the sign, whether they're positive, negative, or zero. So let's just take it point by point. All right. Let's look at point A. Point A is below the x-axis, right? So the value of the function is negative, right? Y is equal to f of x and y is negative, so it's negative at that point. The value of the function is negative. Now, the first derivative of the function, that tells us whether it's increasing or decreasing. It's the slope of the tangent line. So if I were to draw a little tangent line at that point, you can see that it has a positive slope, right? So it's increasing. The function is increasing at that point. The slope of the tangent line is positive. Now, the second derivative tells us about the concavity. So the best thing to do is look at the concavity of the curve around that point. And you can see that we have a U shape, right? We have a U shape around that point. So that's telling us it's concave up. If it's concave up, that means that the rate of change is increasing, right? And the rate of change of the rate of change is the second derivative. So concave up means it's the second derivative is positive at that point. All right, so that's what we're going to do for all of these points. We're just going to go through and look at the value of the function, the value of the derivative, and the value of the first derivative and the value of the second derivative. Point B is above the x-axis, right? So it's at a positive 2 roughly. And so, but all we care about is the sign of it. And so the value of the function f is positive. The derivative tells us about whether it's increasing or decreasing. So if I were to draw a tangent line at that point, you can see that it's sloping downward. The slope is negative. The slope of the tangent line is negative, means that the first derivative is also negative. The second derivative tells us about the concavity. We look at the concavity around that point, and you can see that we have an upside down U shape, meaning it's concave down at that point. So it's concave down. That means the rate of change of the derivative is decreasing. That's the second derivative, right? The rate of change of the rate of change. Concave down tells us that the second derivative is negative at that point. Point C, again, it's below the x-axis, so the value of the function is negative. The first derivative, we can look at the tangent line at that point, right? It looks like it's going downward, so the first derivative is negative, right? Because the slope of the tangent line is negative. And then we can look at the concavity to determine the sign of the second derivative. It looks like it's concave up at that point, so the second derivative is positive at point C. All right. Now let's look at point D. Point D, the value of the function, right? The value of the function, it looks like it's a little below negative 2, but it's negative, right? Because it's below the x-axis. The first derivative, I can draw the tangent line at that point. Now you can see that looks to be the point that it's changing from decreasing to increasing, right? So it looks like the slope of the tangent line is 0 at that point. And then the second derivative has to do with the concavity. So it's the same concavity as point C. So it looks like it's concave up. So this is the second derivative is positive. All right. Point E, we got one more point. It looks like it's above, the value of the function is above the x-axis. So, so it's positive. The first derivative, I want to draw the tangent line at that point. All right, so I'm going to draw a tangent line at that point. It looks like the slope of that tangent line is positive. So the first derivative is positive. And then the function is concave down, right? It's like an upside down U at that point, right? So that tells us that the second derivative is negative. All right, that's all there is to it. I will meet you in the next video.